Okay, so here we go for turn line. Let's roll for ADCs, staff officers. 4 brigades on table for both Rebs and Union troops. So we've got 2 ADCs for the Union and 3 for the Confederate forces. All right, let's do those out. Okay, so for the Rebels, we're going to put a reroll on the Texans with our first ADC. We're going to do on the right our Georgians. Also have a unit retreating, so they need to reform too. So we're going to put a re-roll on them, and then we'll put a re-roll on our Louisiana regiment as well, see if they can move forward. All right, let's start with the Texans. They get a 4, so they are active. The Georgians get a 6, they're active. The Louisiana, with their re-roll, get a 1. Then they get a 2. Louisiana Brigade is hesitant this turn. That's unfortunate. And then roll for the Alabama. They get a 4. So they are active. So 1 cautious Confederate or hesitant Confederate regiment. And now for the Union. Okay, so we've just checked the rules for retiring. You can do that. You simply move backwards, then you turn back to face the enemy and you go unformed. So we'll probably do a voluntary withdrawal with our 1 Union regiment that's out here on the front line from their right-hand brigade. We're then going to have to do an order to reposition our reserves. I think they will look to take a front line and pull back both those other 2 brigades, or certainly reshape them. So for that, we need a redeploy order. That's 2 staff officers. As voluntary withdrawals are both rearward movement, that should be okay. So we're going to use our 2 ADCs to do a redeploy for our reserve. Okay, so there will be no re-roll on this. Let's see how we do on the redeploy order. We've got a 4, so the Union Reserve can redeploy. All right, their right-hand brigade is active. Their left-hand brigade on the right flank is also active. And then the Irish brigade is active. All right, so we've got 4 active Union brigades, 2 active Rebel brigades. So this will be a +1 test for the Union. The Union, again, win initiative. We've also rewound the video, and so that left rearmost Texan regiment you can see with the little casualty dice next to it, that should be on a 1 rather than a 6. So I'll correct that now, and we've got our orders allocated, and the Union again has initiative. All right, no charges, but quite a lot of movement. So let's start over on the left of the battlefield. Here, the Alabama regiment moved the skirmishers that were in the centre of the centre of the position here, threatening the Union artillery and the Union skirmish line. They've moved across to threaten the farm buildings, and the left-hand regiment of skirmishers that was already deployed has moved forward. So both of those are within 9 inches now, so they'll have better shooting against that Union regiment behind the rails. And the 3rd skirmisher regiment has fallen back behind its formed colleagues to give them a chance to reform and give us some assault power potentially here if we want to attack the farm in a future turn. The Alabama regiment in the centre here in the red shirts, those guys there unfortunately went unformed as they moved forward over that fence line. All right, so that's the movement on the right. In the centre, Louisiana Brigade, as you heard, are hesitant this turn, so they haven't moved forward. For the Texans, we have moved our weaker units to the rear. So our regiment with 8 and 5 casualties have pulled back. One of them was unformed, but they were retreating. So they've at least rallied, but are no longer retreating. The right-hand regiment of Texans here went unformed as it went through its colleagues to take up that position on the front line. The left-hand regiment completed it successfully. The skirmishers, the Confederate cavalry, continue to pester the Union line. Here, this is the Union brigade that was on the left. The front regiment has again done a passage of lines with the rearward regiment. They managed to pass their leadership tests and move through one another's lines without going unformed. and we did do a voluntary withdrawal of our very heavily damaged unit, which will move back towards the table edge and take no further part in the battle. We don't want to have them broken. Over here on the right, with that redeploy order, the Union reserves have come in. So we've now got 6 Union regiments formed up in the Highlands to hold off this rebel attack. The Georgians have reformed again. They started to do a passage of lines. 2 stronger regiments here on the left have moved forward. The front one's got 2 and the second one 3 casualties. Unfortunately, the foremost regiment went unformed. They may be susceptible to a charge next turn by those colleagues from the Union. Over here on the right, we haven't done the passage of lines, as our stronger regiment was one that was thrown back and previously retreating. So it's simply unformed here on the right. So that's it for all of the movement. Now let's kick off with our Union firing. Let's do the firing over on the left. We'll do Union and then we'll do Rebel and then we'll move across to complete the firing. So first thing to fire, we will have the Union line regiment, the Irish, will open fire at close range. They are not elite, so they get no bonuses for this. I think they've only got a couple of casualties. I'll just go and check that. Yeah, just two casualties, so no penalty to this firing. They're firing at skirmishers though, so that will be a -2. They roll a 10, so that goes down to an 8. So that's pretty effective firing. That's 2 casualties and a see the elephant test on those skirmisher regiments. They will fire at the right-hand regiment. That's the one that they have most visibility of. So let's do the see the elephant test. We roll an 8. They pass that, but I think the fire will have been distributed across that whole line of skirmishers. So we'll put 1 casualty on each of those skirmishers. So that takes this unit up to 5, and this unit up to 4. So both will be firing with penalties now. All right, that's the Union line. Now let's have a look at those Union skirmishers. See what sort of range they're in. Okay, so they are within 18. Only 2 bases are within 12. So two dice, I'll make them the blue ones, need 5s or 6s. The red ones need 6s. Good firing. So 2 more casualties against the rebel skirmishers on the right. Okay. I'll this down for a second. And then the Union guns, and they will fire at long range at the Alabama Brigade in the wood ahead of them. They roll an 8, that goes down to a 7 because they're firing through the woods. That's 2 casualties, but it is a see the elephant test on that Alabama regiment. They roll a 7, they pass that test. That is, I think, their first casualties of the game. All right, we'll mark up those 2 lots of 2 casualties. All right, now we'll do the return fire from the rebels on this side of the table. So we've got 2 sets of skirmishers. Both have got more than 4 casualties, so they lose 1 dice for that. We've both got 5 skirmisher bases, so that will take them down to 4, and then firing through the fence line will take them down to 3. So all needing 5s or 6s. 2 more casualties against that Union infantry regiment, and then the rebel guns will open fire. They will do counter battery fire against the Union artillery battery. Yeah, apologies for that. That is the tumble dryer just finishing. So deploy battery is at -2. So let's fire the guns. We roll an 11. That goes down to a 9. That's pretty effective. So that's at long range though. So that's 1 casualty and a see the elephant test on the Union artillery. Let's see what they roll. They roll a 9. They will be fine, but they take an extra casualty. That's firing finished on the left. Let's move across to the activity here on the right. Apologies for the autofocus going in and out. Hopefully that's not too distracting. Okay, so we have two volleys from the Union troops. They moved, so they'll be on -2, and the rebels are in the rocks over there on the right-hand side, the Georgian troops. So this will be a -3 red dice again, will be on the right-hand side. So that's an 8, which will go down to a 5, which is 1 casualty, and a 3, which will go down to a nothing. So 1 casualty on the leading Georgian regiment. Not too bad. And we'll now do the counterfire by the Georgians. Right, so they will be firing at -2 because they're unformed and they move, so that will make it -4. I think on a -4 they are not going to fire, but we will fire our rebel skirmishers again against the Union infantry on the far left. Need 5s or 6s, and we roll 1 more casualty on the Union. That's it for firing. That's the end of turn 9. All right, let's roll for ADCs as we kick off turn 10. Better dice roll. Well, better dice roll for the Union. They've got 3 active staff officers. The Rebs only have 1 this turn. All right, let's see what the Union will do with their 3 ADCs. All right, so the Union are going to put rerolls on their 3 brigades on the right, and they're looking to do some charges potentially this turn against that Georgian brigade. So let's roll for the newly arrived reserve infantry. They go active. The ones to the rear go active. The ones to the left of the reserve infantry are reroll, are active. And then for our Irish brigade in the farm, they are hesitant. So we have 1 Union hesitant brigade. Right, we only have 1 reroll for the Confederates, or 1 ADC rather for Confederates. We're going to put that on the Texan brigade to try and make sure we move them up. So rolling for the Georgians first. They go hesitant. Rolling for the Texans. They are hesitant, but they get their reroll. They remain hesitant. All right, our Louisiana brigade is active, and our Alabama brigade is hesitant. 3 hesitants for the Confederates and 1 for the Union. So +2 for the Union. Let's see what they do. They roll a double 6. That's a draw because the Union are on 10, which goes up to a 12. There we go. So the Union again retain initiative. I think this is like 7 turns in a row. This is completely ludicrous. But the Union retain initiative. All right, let's move on with the Union and their charges. All right, so the Union Brigade on the right, the Reserve Brigade has charged in. All 4 regiments joining the attack. We've got a defensive volley by the Georgians on the far right. They are at 6 casualties, so their defensive volley will be at -1. Let's see how they do. They roll a 7. That's pretty good. And that is 2 casualties against the incoming Union troops. And then the left-hand brigade will open fire. Firstly, we need to roll for the Union to see if they go disordered crossing the rocks. They roll a 7. They're regular troops, so they don't. They get through the rocks. Okay, so they remain formed. All right, the rebel volley on the left. Again, this will be at -2. That's a 3. That's a loss of fire discipline. So no casualties there. So just 2 casualties on the charging Union troops. Right, let's do the charge results. Okay, so starting on the right for the Union, we are not elite, veterans, pursuing or unformed or charging. We suffered 2 casualties, so we're simply at -1 to our dice roll modifier. And for the rebels, we are at -1 because we've got 6 casualties. So this is a straight roll off. Let's see how we go. Both both have supports. So let's roll the Union support first. That 2 was the number of casualties they had taken. So the Union are on a 4. The Rebels will roll a 1. They remain on a 6. That's a -3. So on a -3, the Chargers retire and their supports retire, and the Georgians remain in place. Both retiring units will take 1 casualty. All right, yeah, I can't stop it doing the focus in and out. Apologies. I'll try again and see if I can do it with the next shot. Certainly bugging me, so apologies if it's bugging you. All right, the charge results for the second charge. The Union troops suffered no casualties going in, and they are formed. And the Rebs are unformed. And let's see how many casualties they've got. They've only got 2 casualties, so no penalties for that. So this is a +2 for the Union on the charge. The Union roll an 8. They have supports. They're going to re-roll that 2. Can't stop knocking that dice over. That takes them on to an 8. The Rebs are going to lose this one. They roll a 6. So that's a win by 2. So the Union halt and volley. The Rebs stay unformed. There will be 5 dice because this is a regular size regiment. Let's see how many casualties they cause. They cause 1 casualty on the Rebs. So not too effective a charge, and indeed the Rebs have thrown back half of those assaulting units over there on the right. Okay, so with normal movement done, we'll crack on. With charges done, we'll crack on with normal movement. Yeah, apologies. I'm using my iPad to do this filming. It's a much easier tool to do these sort of fixed shots from than my camera, because out here in the US I don't have my tripod and stuff with me. But this autofocus is I'll stop talking about it. It's bugging me. I'm going to stop talking about it. All right. Where we're at? Yeah, we're at normal movement. Let's do the normal movement for the Union. All right. So both for the Union and the Rebels, everything simply formed up. So the Texan Brigade to our direct front here is formed, as are the Georgians over on the right. For the Rebs on the left, all the Alabama Brigade units have formed up. Irish Brigade has formed up, and they formed a line behind their own skirmish screen, so the skirmishers can fall back in due course and have a unit to form up on. So that's movement done. Let's kick off with Union firing over here on the right. Again, as last turn, this will be a volley from that infantry battalion at -2. So they roll a 6, shooting against the skirmishers. 6 is 1 casualty against the skirmishers. We'll do that on the right-hand battalion. Then the skirmishers, the Union skirmishers themselves, will open fire. They'll have 2 at 6-inch range and 3 at 9-inch range, and 3 at more than 9. That's good shooting. So they got 2 more casualties against the skirmishers. That's 3 casualties on the skirmishing regiment. That will take them up to 9. They'll probably need to draw back, and then the Union battery will open fire against the Rebs in the woods. This is at -1. They roll an 8. That goes down to a 7. So at long range, that is 1 more casualty. So it takes the Rebs in the woods back here to 3 casualties. All right, that's the firing on the left. We'll do the Rebel firing in a second. All right, so the Rebs are now opening fire. They've got 5 shots from their skirmishers, all needing 5s or 6s against that Union regiment in the wood. Pretty good firing. That's 4 casualties against that Union regiment. That's pretty tremendous. All right, and then the Reb gun battery will open fire, and we're going to go at the Irish that formed line this turn behind that skirmish screen. So it will be at long range. We roll a 6. A 6 at long range is half a casualty. 4, 5 or 6. Converts. All right, 5 casualties over on the Union right flank. That's better firing from the Rebs this time. Over here on the right, the only firing is the is the Rebel skirmish screen, firing against the Union. Everyone else was either out of range or involved in charges this turn. Let's see how they do. One more casualty against the Union troops. All right, that's it for turn 10. Let's move on with turn 11. Rolling for ADCs. Can the Rebs do better than last time? So let's see how we do. Okay, so Union get 3 staff officers. That's pretty good going. Rebels get 3, but they've got a double 6, so that will give them a 4th. So four staff officers for the Union, for the Rebs, and 3 for the Union. All right, let's allocate those. What are we going to do with the Rebs? I'd like to move the Louisiana Brigade forward in a way. I'd like to give it a forwards order. So I think we're going to do that and then put a re-roll on the Texans and we'll take a risk on the others. All right, let's roll for the Georgians first on the right. They get a 5, they are active. For the Texans who have a re-roll, they get a 3, they are active. For the Louisiana who have a re-roll and a forwards order, they get an active and a forwards order. And then for the Alabama, also active. So pretty good going. Rebs have got all their brigades active and a forwards order on the Louisiana. For the Union, we're going to have to put, we're only on retire orders, but I think we will put a re-roll on our reserve brigade. We need to get that back up in the front line against the Georgians. And what else are we going to do? It's tough. I think we'll put re-rolls again on those 2 brigades that are fighting in the hills. All right, so the reserve brigade needs its re-roll. It is active. The brigade on the right rear is also needing its re-roll. It is active. The brigade on the left and on the right-hand side needs its re-roll. Is active, so 3 out of 3 Union brigades active, and then the Irish brigade is active as well. Everyone is active. Let's roll for initiative. Can the Union pull it off for about turn 10 out of 11? They can. The Union keep initiative. Let's see if they can do any charges. They may well on the right. Let's weigh that one up. Right, so neither the Union or the Confederates are going to charge over on that right flank. So let's crack on. Normal movement. Union will move first, and then the Rebs, I'll come back and show you where we get to. All right, a lot of movement here on the Rebel side. So the Irish Brigade pretty much remained where it was. There was the regiment on 10 casualties. It has voluntarily withdrawn off the table. It has marched back towards Washington. Doesn't want to suffer being broken and having that impact on the rest of the brigade. So they've been ordered just to pull out. The rebel skirmishers on the left have stayed where they were. The 2nd Regiment of Skirmishers that was on 9 casualties has fallen back through their own units to avoid them being broken. The 2 Alabama regiments that were formed behind this headline, or just over this fence here, have advanced up to the next fence line to volley those Irish troops behind the fence. And our Alabama regiment has also advanced out into the open to provide at least some choice of targets for that Union artillery battery, which is in still a pretty healthy state, but you can see why in a second. The Louisiana Brigade has used its forwards order. It rolled, where they go? Yeah, a 5 and 2 6s for its advance, so it went 27 inches moving up. So they are moving up on the flank of the Union Brigade that is anchoring the right-hand end of their line in the hills. The Reb skirmishers are now around the flank. The Texan Brigade has moved forwards to do some long-range volleying. And if we look at the Georgian Brigade, they haven't charged. They're going to carry on volleying over here against their Union opponents, and the Union Reserve Brigade has started moving up, even if still unformed. But the 5th Regiment, 3rd on this flank here, of Georgians has gone into skirmish formation, moved up against that fence line to bring some enfilading fire in against the Union. So this could be a pretty impactful turn. Certainly it looks like the Union position is looking increasingly fragile. Union get to fire first, so We'll start over here on the left-hand side, as is traditional. So the Union Line Regiment in the woods will open fire. I think it's now taken 4 casualties, so this will be a shot at -1 going against the skirmishers, so that'll be a -3. They roll a 4, that's no effect. The Union skirmishers have nothing to fire at this turn, everything is out of range. Are they out of range? They've got an 18-inch range. Yeah, that's 19 inches away. The Union artillery, I think they're going to fire at the target to their front. This is now at effective range. Let's see what they do. They roll a 7. Pretty creditable shot for the Union artillery. And effective range of 7 is 1.5 casualties. So let's roll a casualty dice. Yeah, they do get 2 casualties. That takes that Alabama regiment up to 5 casualties. Okay, I will now do the return fire. So again, 18-inch range for the Alabama. Everything is out of range at present, but we will open fire with our Alabama regiment that moved up against the fence line. There'll be a -2, -3 because they moved and they're firing against Union troops in behind defences. They were on an 8, that goes down to a 5. This is a standard volley. Are they standard volley or a long range volley? Still a long range volley with a 5, doesn't cause any casualties. And then we've got 5 casualties on the Confederate skirmishers, so they only get 3 dice. Needing 5s or 6s, double 6. We will check to see whether that causes a discipline test, but it certainly causes 2 casualties on the Union regiment holding that fence line. Right, it does indeed cause a see the elephant test. We rolled an 8, we passed, but they are now on, actually we failed, they are unformed. They are now on 8 casualties, so it would have been a test at -2. So they would normally need a 7, a veteran would need a 6 or more, 2 more casualties and 8 or more. They got an 8, so they do remain formed. All right, now Union firing in the centre. So we've got 2 Union regiments that are in range and can fire, potentially 3. We'll start with a long-range volley by the Union troops behind the woods. They will fire at the right hand of the 2 Texan regiments facing them. They didn't move this turn. They did form up. I don't know whether that counts as moving. I think it probably does. So this will be a shot at -2. They roll a 4, whichever, that will be no effect. Then the Union troops in the rocks will open fire. This will be a close range volley. They roll a 4, that is also no effect. And then finally, the unformed brigade that moved forward will do a volley at long range. Don't think it will. There are too many negative penalties. That's it for the Union firing. Let's see if we get something from the Confederate fire in return. So those 2 Confederate regiments have moved up in the centre, are going to open fire. Reds will be on the right, blues will be on the left. These will be at both at -2 as they moved, but no other penalties. Well, that's a good set of firing. So an 11 on the right-hand regiment becomes a 9 these are still long-range volleys, that's 1.5 casualties. The 8 becomes a 6, so that's a half. So 2 dice to convert. One of them does, that's 2 casualties against the leading Union regiment, and then the skirmishers will fire at the rear regiment, a 6, a 5, so 2 casualties against the rear regiment. So 4 casualties on those Union troops, 2 and 2. I'll just put the dice down so I can remember to mark that up. All right, now then, newly deployed Union rebel skirmishers of the Georgian Brigade that are going into that little copse in the centre between the Union positions. There are 5 bases of rebels there. There is no cover, so it'll be 5 shots at close range, needing 5s or 6s against the leading Union regiment. A triple 6, so that's 3 casualties and a see the elephant test. Let's see what we get. Get a 6, so at best they're going to go unformed. I'm going to put these casualties on, before I forget. Okay, so the Union regiment in the rocks has gone unformed. We've got one unit of Georgians. They are stationary. They only have 3 casualties, so this will be a full effect volley at close range. A 7. So a standard volley, that's another 2 casualties. That takes that regiment up to 6 casualties. That's it. That's firing done. That's turn 11 done. Let's move on to turn 12. All right, let's roll for ADCs, staff officers. See what we get. Okay, so for the Union, they've got all of them. For the Confederates, they've got all of them. All right, let's allocate those and decide what we're going to do. Think for the Union. Let's have a think. Is there anything that might be particularly beneficial? All right, we're going to do a rally order on the Irish Brigade. That gives all regiments 1d3 extra casualties. They could certainly do with that now. We're going to put a re-roll on that. That uses all 4 Union ADCs. So let's roll for the other brigades. So the Reserve Brigade on the right is active. The Union at the rear is active. The unit on the left is active. All right, and now with a re-roll, the rally order on the Irish fails but does pass. Each unit gets D3 extra casualties. That's it for the Union, and we're going to adjust their casualties. The unit behind the fence gets 1 more casualty. The unit in the farm gets 3 more casualties back. And the unit off table is off table. So 1 and 3. Then for the Rebs, we're going to put simply re-rolls on all our units. Starting with the Georgians, they're active. The Texans are active. The Louisiana Brigade needs its re-roll. It's gone hesitant, and it was the one who needed to charge. And then our Alabama Brigade is active. So everyone on the Union side was active. Let's see if they can retain initiative. Yeah, 8 against 7. That's a draw. The Unions had initiative last turn. The Union keep initiative in turn. We're on turn 12 now, I think. I think we're on turn 12. All right, Union charges, and I'll go and put those casualties. All right, no charges from the Union. Almost all of their front regiments are unformed. The Georgians, again, are seeing this as an opportunity. They're going to charge into those unformed Union regiments on the right. All right, let's go and have a look. Let's see what defensive volleys they'll throw. All right, defensive volley for the right-hand Union regiment. They've only got 3 casualties, so no penalties on this other than being unformed. They roll a 6, that goes down to a 4. That is no casualties. And then on the unit on the left, defensive volley, they've got 5 casualties, so this will be at -3. They roll a 6, going down to a 3 again. Loss of fire discipline. So no defensive casualties for the Union. And now we'll do the charge results. Both Union regiments are unformed, and let's just and both sides have supports. All right, let's do the charge on the right flank first. Rebs have 6 casualties, so that'll be a -1. They have a reserve. The Union are unformed, that'll be a -2, but only 3 casualties. So this is a net +1 to the Rebs. The Rebs and Union both have a re-roll, but the Union re-roll will be at -1. Union roll well again. They've got a 9. They will not go for a re-roll. The Rebs will try and re-roll a 2. They go down to a 5. That's a -4. That is another failed charge by the Rebels. On a -4, they will retire and their supports will retire. Okay, we'll do those retires in a minute. We'll now do the second charge. Second charge, the Union are on a -3 modifier. Both have re-rolls. Good rolls for the Union again, -3 modifier. I think they'll stick on that. So after the modifier, that turns them to a 7. The Rebs will re-roll their 1 to a 2, an 8 against a 7. So that's a +1. So they will halt and they will do a volley. They get 5 shots against the unformed Union. They cause 3 casualties on the Union, and we'll go and pull back the retiring Union. All right, that's charges complete, and as you can see, the Georgians on the right have had to fall back into that copse again. That must be the 3rd time or so they've done that in this battle. Right, Union troops to move. All right, so firing, let's start over on the right. So the Reserve Brigade has moved 2 of its unformed regiments forward. to form a continuous line on that right flank to try and drive off these Georgians. They're not going to fire because they've moved and they're unformed. The other regiment behind the rocks will open fire. It is unformed. I believe it's on 6 or so casualties. This will be shot at -3. And on an 8, that goes down to a 5. So for a close range volley, I will just check they're on 6 casualties. If so, that is 1 casualty on the Union. And then the regiment in the centre, facing off against the Texans, has stepped back. It's wheeled back to its right. And the Confederates have definitely broken a hole in this centre of this Union position. It's looking very vulnerable, even without the Louisiana Brigade moving forward this time. It just edged to its left, and the Texan Brigade moved forward up to that fence line. So a fire against that fence line. Again, this will be a shot at -2. They're all a 6. 6. So at close range, that is also 1 casualty. I'll just check the casualty status of those 2 Union units that just shot, assuming that's right. It's 1 on the Texan regiment and 1 on the Georgian. Okay, so I'll do the rebel return fire. There was actually no casualties on the Georgians because the Union regiment in the rocks is already on 8 casualties. So the Rebs will open fire against them. They've only got 3 casualties. So this will be a full effect volley, but -1 because the Union troops are in cover. So we roll a 7, that goes down to a 6. That's 1 more casualty. Then we will fire the 2 Texan regiments. Let's see if the Texan regiment is in the left-hand regiment is at long range, the right-hand regiment is at close range. Both have got no casualties or no significant casualties, so we'll be firing at full effect. So the 6 for a long-range volley is half a casualty. Let's see if that one converts, which it does. But the 10 is much more devastating. So the 10 as a standard volley is 4 more casualties. So that's 5 casualties and a see the elephant test against that Union regiment. Right, so that's see the elephant test on that Union regiment. Somewhat perversely, they probably want to break because they're on 11 casualties. And if they take the fire from those skirmishers this turn, they may be destroyed and that Union brigade will be broken. They roll at 8. Unfortunately, they only go unformed. All right, the red skirmishers will fire at them. They need a 5. They roll 2 6s. That's another see the elephant test. That Union brigade is, that Union regiment is broken, and the brigade is broken, and we'll have to start retiring off table. The Union centre looks like it's smashed. All right, we'll just implement those firing effects and see what happens next. Okay, let's do Union firing on the left. So this regiment behind the fence will be firing at -3 against the skirmishers. They roll a 9, that's pretty good. So 9 goes down to 6, that's 1 more casualty on the skirmishers, takes them up to 6 casualties. And then the Union artillery battery, I think it will now fire at the front regiment of Louisiana Tigers. This will be at effective range. I think they've only got 3 casualties. They roll a 7 at effective range, that's 1.5 casualties against the Louisiana Tigers, a 1. And there will be some bounce through, I think. Let's see if they get a bounce through casualty. No. So that's 1 casualty on the Louisiana Tigers. Not a great return. All right, that's it. Oh no, we've got our skirmishers to fire. Union skirmishers, there are 4 bases worth of skirmishers there. They need 6s to hit the rebel skirmishers. They do. They cause 1 casualty against the rebel skirmishers. Okay, so time for the Rebs to return fire on this flank. Their skirmishers will open up again. 3 dice against the Irish Brigade in the woods. Behind the fence rather, that's 1 casualty. And then a formed volley at -1 at long range, a 10. That goes down to 1.5 casualties, which does convert. That's 3 casualties on the Irish holding the fence line. Good return for them. And then the Confederate skirmishers will open fire against the artillery battery, needing 6s. They don't do any casualties against that artillery battery. All right, let's mark those casualties up and move on with turn 12. I think it might be pretty much time for the Union to call it a day. Their front regiment of Irish is now up to 10 casualties. That one will need to pull back. And we're going to need to look to form up our skirmish regiment perhaps. Anyway, let's see what happens. I think this is turn 12, might be turn 13, apologies if I've lost count. But we only get 3 dice for the Union this time, as they have a broken brigade. So 2 staff officers for the Confederates, 1 for the Union troops. All right, we're going to put that 1 on our. Where on earth are we going to put that reroll? I think we might have to put it on our reserve brigade at the back on the right, because we're going to have to start thinking about moving that potentially across. So they go active. Our big reserve brigade is active. Our broken brigade has got to withdraw. Our Irish brigade is active. So all 3 operational Union brigades are in action. All right, we've got 2 staff officers for the Confederates. I'm going to put rerolls on the Louisiana and the Texan brigade. They're trying to smash this front open. Let's see how they do. Louisiana need their reroll. Oh, they're hesitant again. And the Texan brigade will have to bear the weight of this assault. They are active. The Georgians are hesitant, and the Alabama are hesitant. God, the Confederates have choked. The Union will hang on for another turn. All right, I'm sure they'll keep initiative. They're on +3, aren't they? This turn. No, well, let's work this out properly. They are on +2. The rebels rolled a 7, but they had 3 hesitant brigades. I think the Union have 1 hesitant brigade with their broken brigade. So that must make it a 4 for the Union and a 4 for the rebels, which means it's a draw, which means the Union retain initiative. Let's see if they've got any charges. Right, no charges from the Union troops, and indeed no charges from the rebels. I don't think it's worth it. The only brigade that was active for the Union, for the rebels rather, was the Texan brigade. So let's do movement to see what it looks like at the end of this turn. All right, so quite a lot of movement. The Alabama troops have moved out to get ready to assault the farm. Unfortunately, the lead regiment went unformed crossing that fence line. Their supports are formed up. Their skirmishers are approaching the gun line, as indeed are the cavalry skirmishers who are now through the woods. The Texan brigade have clean broken through. Look like they've got a clear run to the table edge, and the Louisiana brigade, although it hasn't advanced, has moved to its left again to threaten this gun position as and when the skirmishers can put some serious hurt on that and overrun and break through that gap there. For the Union, they haven't had a redeploy order, but their last brigade, they have at least swung to its right to try and plug the hole and the flank they are holding there. But not long, I don't think, for this go. Time for the Union to call a withdrawal. Let's see what happens this turn. Union has the initiative. No more movement. Union will open fire first on this right-hand side. One slight adjustment. I forgot quite how many casualties that Union lead regiment of the reserves had taken. So it's pulled back. It passed its discipline test, so it moved through its colleagues without unforming them, but it itself goes unforms as it pulls back onto the hill. So the 2nd regiment will open fire. They are still at effective range. This will simply be a shot at -1 as they attack the Georgians in the rocks. Firing much like their colleagues, not great, a 7. On a standard volley, that goes down to a 6 because of the Georgians' cover, is 1 casualty on the Georgians. That'll take them up to 4, so this will be a return fire by the Georgians at -1. They roll a 7, that also will go down to a 6, so that is also 1 casualty. So they both exchange a casualty, and then we've got 5 Confederate skirmisher dice firing across, and that causes a 2nd casualty on that Union regiment. That's it for firing on the right. Firing on the left, the Union are going to fire a volley at -2 at the approaching Alabama regiment. That'll be a 5, that's 1 casualty on the approaching Alabama regiment. That takes them up to 3. Okay, they will return fire. They will shoot, but they are on -4. That's a 2. They lose fire discipline, and their skirmishing colleagues will open fire, and they cause 1 casualty against the Irish brigade, Irish regiment that's behind the fence line.
Then the skirmishers will open fire. There'll be 2 needing 5s and 2 needing 6s. They score 1 casualty on the Alabama again. So that's 1 more casualty to put on the Alabama. And then the guns will fire. They are going to fire at effective range at the Louisiana regiment again through that line of skirmishers. Let's see what they do. That's an 8, that goes down to a 7 because they've accumulated casualties. That is 1.5 casualties on the Louisiana Tigers. That is 2 casualties on the Louisiana Tigers. And no bounce. So, all right. I'll mark those Union casualties.
Right, let's do the skirmish fire then against the artillery battery. The regiment at the front, 5 bases, no casualties, and then the regiment of the cavalry skirmishers from the right, 1 more casualty on the gun line. All right, so the guns are now in a precarious position because of the number of casualties they've taken, and the Irish regiment, I really should have pulled them out last turn. They're now on 11 casualties. They are going to go. All right, let's at least roll for ADC, see if the Union can pull off the table successfully, and if the Ribs can break through in the centre. All right, this is turn 14.
Right, let's roll for ADCs. Okay, so Union get 2, Rebs get 4. All right, let's see what we do. So the Union, they're going to want rerolls because they want initiative, but they need redeploy. So we're going to try and redeploy without a reroll our reserve brigade. We get a 2, they go hesitant, that's not great. Our major reserve brigade passes, and then our Irish brigade passes. So this is a test at -1. For the Union, perhaps it's -2 because of the broken brigade. And then for the Rebs, we've got 4 dice. We are going to put forwards on the Texan brigade, drive them off the table. That I think will secure victory, and a re-roll on the Louisiana brigade. Let's see if the Louisiana can get initiative. They do, and the Texans do, and the Georgians, no re-roll, do, and the Alabama do. Everything's active for the Confederates. -2 for the Union. Let's see. And the Confederates still don't get initiative. It's quite unbelievable. I don't think they've had initiative in a single turn of this game. All right, charges to declare for the Union. I don't know that there are going to be any. All right, so the Union do have a bit of an opportunity over here on the right. This is simply going to be a spoiling attack. Try and drive the Georgian remnants of that Georgian brigade away and get them to pull back. We've been able to charge them with 2 Union regiments, both with supports. All are formed. There will be defensive fire available from the Georgians. They'll have to split it across 2 units. So the Georgians have 4 casualties. So let's do their defensive volley. They roll a 6. So that's not going to do too much to disrupt this attack. A 6 is 1 casualty. And there will be some passing fire from the rebel skirmishers. Let's do that as the Union regiments on the right charge in. That causes 1 more casualty. So that's, well, let's take that as 1 casualty on each of the lead Union regiments. Not enough to slow the attack. Right, the Union regiment on the right will attack, going in towards the Confederate regiment's flank, but it is still a front attack. They've got 4 casualties. The rebels have got 4 casualties. So this will be a straight roll-off. Union have 2 supports. Rebels only have 1. Both roll a 10. My God, astounding results. Neither are going to go for re-roll. That's a draw. So there will be a melee there as that Union regiment piles into those Confederates. Let's see if they can at least break away. Okay, with our brigades hesitant here on the right, we've got the melee going on this hill. The rest of the Georgians are formed up in this copse. We'll see whether these guys can hang on. You've got Georgian skirmishers up against that fence line around the flank of that Union position, and the Texan brigade has started to form up against this fence line to prevent any reinforcements reaching the centre from that remaining hesitant brigade of the Union troops. The rest of the Texan brigade is going to complete that envelopment or march off the board. We've got the Louisiana brigade right up against the guns, along with all their skirmishers. and over in the farm, the Union forces have fallen back from the fence line. That Alabama Brigade regiment should have formed up, which I'll do in a second. The Irish are on the fence line, have fallen back into the village, into the farm, and that Union Brigade is hanging on by a thread. Let's see if the guns survive this turn. Right, and the Union troops in the farm are going to open fire against the Confederate skirmishers who've moved up against the fence line. They need 5s or 6s, so that's 2 more casualties against those Confederate skirmishers. They will probably have to pull out. That takes them up to 8. So they will fire back 5 bases normally. 8 will take off 2 and lose another 1 for firing at cover. They suffer, they get no casualties on the Union. Alright, now the firing of the Cum battery. That's at close range now. Going to fire at the Louisiana Tigers. They're approaching from the front. Let's see how the Union battery does. They do a bit better. They roll an 8. That will be quite good at close range. That's 3 casualties on the Louisiana Tigers and a C the elephant test at -1. They roll a 7. They will go unformed and take another 3 casualties. Alright, and then we've got 3 shots from the Confederates, the Union skirmishers. They cause 1 more casualty on the Confederate skirmishers. Alright, now for the return fire. Will the Union battery survive, or will that brigade also? Right, so we've got 7 skirmisher shots now going against the artillery battery, losing 1 dice because we're shooting into cover. Double 6. That's 2 casualties and a discipline test. I think that takes that battery up to 8 casualties. I think batteries only have 8 casualties. Artillery battery, 8 for Union. Though the artillery battery is gone, that is a falter test on the Irish Brigade. The Irish Brigade has still got 3 regiments on the table, so it is not broken, even if one of those regiments has taken 11 casualties. The other 2 are pretty strong. So, artillery battery is destroyed, and the Irish Brigade does, however, falter. All right, let's roll what ADCs we've got. See if the Irish Brigade flees. If they don't, we'll assume. Oh no, let's not rush ahead. So we'll remove the artillery battery. That's the end of firing. But of course, we still have hand-to-hand combat to do over here on the right. Then we'll do the recount. All right, so straight dice off. Both sides get 5 dice. Confederates aren't charging. They're not unformed, they're not skirmishers, they haven't got 8 or more casualties, no one is whipped. So straight roll off, let's see how we do. Well, the Union caused 2 casualties, they get a double 6. The Rebs caused 2 casualties. So on drawn melee, all units retire. Okay, so both the Union and the Confederates retire from that combat. That does allow that reserve brigade on the right flank to break contact. In fact, it probably helps as it retires and the opposing Confederate forces retire. Okay, let's just move them. All right, there you can see the Union forces. There were three regiments involved in that attack, 1 attacking regiment and 2 supports. So they all retired as supports retire. There was 1 remaining Union regiment, but I decided they would fall back with the rest of the group. That seemed sensible rather than just leaving that 1, which was actually in a supporting role, even if not technically a support. That one has also pulled back. So that spoiling attack by the Union actually did work, even though they only achieved a draw. The Confederates, the Georgian Brigade, has just done so much hard work in this game, was again thrown back out of the highlands, back to that position they almost launched their assault from, by that small copse of woods. But the Unions are falling back off table there. All right, let's just roll ADCs for the final time. We won't do any more of this turn, but we'll just use this to help determine how the game ends up. We have got a faltering Union Brigade. Right, the Union get 2 ADCs, the Rebels get 3. Okay, so Rebels will be fine with 3 ADCs. We will just pull back with everything, so it doesn't matter if our brigades go hesitant. but we will use our 2 staff officers to see if we can recover the Irish. So let's do their faltering brigade test. They are veterans. So we roll a 2. That's not good. They withdraw, and then on their reroll, also a 2. So they weren't disastrously destroyed, but they have withdrawn on the table. That makes it conclusive. Howell's farm has been surrendered after such a hard-fought battle in our previous game, successfully captured by the Union, but this counterattack by the rebels has seized it back. The Irish have fled off table. There's not much of the Irish brigade left. They've lost their artillery battery. 1 regiment is on 11 casualties. Another one, also on 11, withdrew from the table. There are 2 remaining regiments that are in good shape, but 50%, more than 50% casualties. For the rebels, the Alabama Brigade here on the left did well. They didn't act particularly aggressively. 1 regiment down here has got 9 casualties. It's not in a great state. And that skirmishing regiment at the front is on 8 casualties. And the ones right up that were in front of the gun line are on 7 casualties. So they've taken quite high losses, but they have pinned the Irish Brigade in place, and actually the combined, pretty much just the combined fire from these units, especially the skirmishing early on in the game, took the heart out of the Irish Brigade, left them on the defensive in the whole game, and in the end has forced them off the table. Undoubtedly the most disappointing unit in the game, or potentially the most devastating, interesting how it can turn out, is the Louisiana Brigade. They were only on for about 4 or 5 turns, of which 3 of those I think they went hesitant. All they've done is march up the centre, but they did march into a gap that was created by the attacks of the Alabama Brigade, forcing the Irish to stay locked in that corner, and their standing assaults. I think that a unit or regiment of the game, brigade of the game, has got to be the Georgians. Not veterans, just a regular brigade, but it must have done 3 or 4 assaults against the Union line. Did pretty well. At their high water mark, had captured pretty much most of this high ground. Okay, yeah, they were thrown back at the end, and the rebels were unable to prevent those 2 Union brigades escaping. But the Irish, the Texans didn't perform outstandingly. They did 2 or 3 assaults in the game. They got thrown back from most of them, but just the outflanking manoeuvre they were able to do, the hole they were able to punch in the centre with the threat of the Louisiana Brigade as well. The fact that they broke that Union Brigade that was on in the Union centre, created this enormous gap, forced the Union Army into 2 halves, allowed these flanking moves through the centre to happen, and actually brought the rebels victory. So what do we have on the table in the end? We had 10 regular regiments for the rebels, the Alabama and the Georgian brigades, and then we had 7 veteran regiments for Irish and 3 Louisiana. So that was 17 regiments for the Confederates. The difference between between veteran and regular brigades doesn't seem that much in this game. You don't get any bonus when you're attacking for being veterans. They to me, they operate pretty much like regulars, although clearly they have a slightly better formation discipline test than the regulars do. For the Union, I don't know what the unit of the game was. Nothing performed particularly with great valour. Their regiments did some spoiling attacks. They held the lines okay. They had 10 regular regiments and 4 veteran regiments, and they held a defensive position. So the Rebs in the end only had a superiority of 3 regiments, although they were all veterans. But you can argue that was the Louisiana, who didn't do anything other than take 6 casualties. They didn't fight anyone, they didn't shoot anyone, they just threateningly marched up the middle. So I think a resounding victory for the Rebs here. I hope you've all enjoyed the game, and we'll be back. I'm not sure what we'll play next time. Probably have a break from American Civil War, but see you again soon. Cheers, everyone.